Welcome to another edition of the Inspired Stories podcast, where leaders share their experiences so we can learn from their successes and be inspired by how they've overcome adversity. My name is Anthony Codispoti, and today's guest is Janelle Cash, Senior Sales Manager. Let's do this again. Welcome to another edition of the Inspired Stories podcast, where leaders share their experiences so we can learn from their successes and be inspired by how they've overcome adversity. My name is Anthony Codispoti, and today's guest is Janelle Cash, Senior Sales Manager for Government Travel at Placemakr. They are a tech-enabled hospitality company combining fully furnished apartment-style living with the perks of a hotel, making flexible stays accessible for nightly or extended visits. Their mission is to provide one-of-a-kind accommodations that help developers tap into new revenue streams while ensuring guests feel right at home. The company recently raised substantial funds to expand into new markets, adding pop-up properties in places like downtown Phoenix. Janelle brings over 20 years of hospitality sales experience, including leadership roles at Yotel and Kimpton, earning awards such as Manager of the Year. Her focus on building corporate and government partnerships has helped Placemakr grow and serve a wide range of travelers. Now, before we get into all the good stuff, today's episode is brought to you by my company, Addback Benefits Agency, where we offer very specific and unique employee benefits that are both great for your team and fiscally optimized for your bottom line. Imagine being able to give your hotel employees free access to doctors, therapists, and prescription medications. And here's the fun part. The program actually puts more money into your employees' pockets, and the company's too. One recent client was able to increase net profits by $900 per employee per year. Results vary for each company, and some organizations may not be eligible. To find out if your company qualifies, contact us today at addbackbenefits.com. All right, back to our guest today, the Senior Sales Manager for Government Travel at Placemakr Hotels, Janelle Cash. Thanks for making the time to share your story today.
Absolutely, Anthony. Thank you so much. Pleasure to be here.
Janelle, you've been in the hospitality sales space for over 2 decades. What first drew you into the industry?
If I'm being completely honest, I needed a job. I was young. Honestly, just needed a job. And I got into being at a front desk at a hotel and quickly rose from front desk to reservations to sales. And I'm here today.
Okay. What was it that you loved about the space? Or was it just, hey, I got my foot in the door and I'm just going to keep rolling?
Yeah, I got my foot in the door, and then I really enjoyed the hospitality side of it. Just being able to help guests, to learn more, to meet people. All of it was just, exciting for me.
And how has your perspective on sales evolved through the diversity of roles you've held at places like Yotel and Kimpton?
I think initially when I first got into sales, the idea was you've got to close, you've got to, hit the goal, like just get to it. And then I think over time, what I've learned is it's more about relationship building. Early on, I did always want to have a relationship with everyone, and that's what I did kind of naturally, but it hasn't evolved fully into, it's not just about closing the deal and the hunt and the kill. It's really just more about like building those relationships and having those clients be loyal to you and continue to come back and follow you everywhere you go. So it has evolved in that way, I will say, for me.
How did that evolution unfold? Was there like a big catalyst moment? Was there a mentor who helped kind of steer you in a direction? Or was it just sort of like a slow realization that there's a better way to do this?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of things. I've had great mentors along the way that have shown me where, like, one in particular, Jolette Whitaker, she's been a great mentor for me. She was one of my first directors of sales, and she really kind of showed me that clients can be friends. And when you make them your friends, they're the ones that are always going to be loyal to you. So that sort of became a natural progression. And I think just over time, I learned that people followed me everywhere I went. Not that I jumped around hotels, but everywhere I went, I have clients that I have today that were my clients, 20 years ago. So it's evolved in the way of it's kind of been stagnant, but it's evolved in a little bit of a different way in how we're booking and how people are selling with, AI kind of running everything now. It's not as knock on the door anymore as much as you can sit behind a computer and do things, but those clients still continue to be loyal to you if you keep that relationship going.
So you say some of your clients have been with you for 20 years. So have you been specifically in the government travel space for that long?
No, I have the unique situation that when I started in sales, sales was everything. You were never segmented. You answered the phone, whoever was on the other line, or you went out and you got a client because you needed the business. So I've sold just about every single segment there is to sell when it comes to hospitality. Um, I've had clients that have been across the genres. Now that my focus is on government, I still have a hotel that I'm selling everything for. So I have clients that come in for that, whatever their market is, whether that's corporate, whether that's Smurf, it doesn't really matter.
Smurf?
Smurf, yeah. So social, uh, social, military, entertainment, religious, fraternal. So we call that Smurf in the hospitality world.
Okay.
Um, so it's really my clients, even though it's someone that I've been with forever, even if I need to move them into work with someone else, they're just there because I'm situated there. So they'll come over, they know they'll be taken care of. They know if I go to a company, it's well trusted, it's going to be a great brand, and it's something that they'll be comfortable with.
Okay. So how did the opportunity to join Placemaker come about?
So I was actually at Yotel. I had actualized 286% of my goal that year. It was just I would love to say it was luck. I did a lot of work, but a little bit of luck. I ended up landing this piece of business that was just did it all for me. And then at the end of it, I sort of kind of reflected and said, well, what am I going to do next? Right? Like what's next? What can I possibly do next? And I was trying to figure it out. And then I saw the opportunity for Placemaker on LinkedIn. A friend of mine at the time, or previous colleague, had been working at Placemaker. And I reached out and just said, hey, do you know anything about this? And he said, hey, you should apply, check it out. And I did. And it was a grueling process, an interview process, but I made it through and I'm here.
Okay. What was so grueling about the interview?
It's like 5 steps, man. Like they put you through it. They just want to make sure they have the right people that you're gonna do you're going to be able to handle the job, and that it's just it's a step by step process that you meet with. They have a really good way of getting you to meet with everyone. It's not just sales and one person. You meet with directors, you meet with revenue, you meet with HR folks. So it's a really good process that you get to kind of break down and see how all these departments work together. They also have you speak to operational folks as well. Um, so you just get a feel for how all of the departments work together and how you would kind of fit in, and if it's something that would work for you, basically.
And could you tell right away that this was a good fit for you, or yeah, why? What were you
Yeah,
sensing?
I would say about the third interview, I was to the point where I was like, I want this. Like, I want this job. It just seemed like the culture and what they were bringing was so different. It wasn't like anything I had experienced before with hotels. With I wasn't 100% sure what I was walking into because the concept was very much, they started with pop-up hotels, right? Where they go into an apartment building that's in the lease-up phase. And then they create a pop-up hotel out of it. They take X amount of units and they run it as a pop-up hotel. So it's a win for that, the person that owns the building. It's a win for them. They don't have to worry about trying to find leases for all of these. And then it gets them sort of a good foundation, and then they can move on. So I was like, okay, well, never really done that before, but sure. And I took my hotel approach to it, which was, well, it's a hotel in my mind. I'm going to operate it that way with my clients. And it's been really successful, but they just seemed as if they knew what they were doing. Like Placemaker as a whole was something so different and so innovative, and it's offering one night to multi-year. I thought that was just a really cool concept and I wanted to be a part of it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So, okay, how long has Placemaker been around?
8 years.
8 years. And
Mhm.
explain this concept to us a little bit more. What was the problem that they were trying to solve when the company was founded?
Basically, fill a need for people to have sort of an Airbnb feel with the idea that you can be in a hotel and you could choose your experience. So whether you wanted it to be more of a hotel feel where you're interacting with someone or you didn't want to deal with anyone at all, it was totally up to you. I think what sort of sets them apart from everyone else is that, like, if you have a vacation rental, you have a checkout list or a cleanup list. There's none of that. So you can check in, you can feel like you're in a vacation rental. It's your home for whatever period of time you want it to be, whether that's very transient, just a few nights, or it's, like I said, multi-year. You're there, you can get your complimentary housekeeping bi-weekly. There's washers and dryers, there are full kitchens. Um, you have a front desk if you want to go talk to the front desk and have that interaction and get your help. We don't really do leases. We do more of agreements for longer stays. So it really kind of takes away the the no lease in an apartment feel. And then also no pressure in a hotel feel. So I just feel like it's the concept is just so cool. It's so different. It's just really meant to make it easy for the traveler.
So the difference from like an Airbnb experience would be that you typically would have access to housekeeping and somebody at the front desk to
Yes.
answer your questions, help you out.
Yeah, exactly. So it is a hotel. So our concept is, it's really apartment meet hotel. And the idea is that as an Airbnb, you go in and then you're cut off. You really can just like text that owner if you have a problem. Right there and there, right then and there on the property is maintenance. So if you have an issue, maintenance comes to your room right away. There is a front desk person. So if you have an issue or you need something or you need directions, you need concierge, there's a guest experience agent that's there to assist you. And then there's also the fact that you're in your apartment, your fill, you can wash your clothes in your room, you can cook all your meals in your room, you don't need to leave if you don't want to. Most of our public spaces have communal workspaces. So you can go down sort of like a WeWork sort of feel. You can go down and work in those public spaces. Like Codon Half in Washington, D.C. has a really nice rooftop. You can hang out up there. We have pools. We have a pool in our Atlanta property. One of our Nashville properties has a pool. So, I mean, it really is just a feel of a hotel, but with your apartment.
So are these properties owned by Placemaker?
Some are owned by Placemakr, but we're mostly a management company. We
Got
manage
it.
hotels.
So, okay. I'm trying to think what's the motivation for an apartment building owner to come to Placemaker and say, hey, let's partner up on this versus them just filling those units on their own? Are these units that they're having trouble filling?
Some people in the lease up phase. So we contact you in the lease up phase. And it's really sort of like if I'm coming to you and I'm saying I can take 100 units right now versus you having to wait to get 100 people over the next year, potentially. Somebody's telling you I'm taking 100 units right now.
Mm.
And we're going to run it like a pop-up hotel. So there's management. I don't know the exact inner workings of those deals, but essentially if I'm an owner and someone comes and tells me I can take 100 units and it's sort of a profit sharing situation, it would make sense because I don't have to worry about getting a tenant that I have to manage and hope they pay rent and hope there's no issues and all of that when this company is coming in and taking this and they sort of take on that responsibility because they're operating like a silo inside of this building. So
Mhm.
I know that anything I need to do, it's one partnership that I'm talking to and my rent's coming from this partnership,
Interesting.
essentially.
And
Mhm.
so one of the benefits is that you guys have this marketing reach where you're able to get, hey, yeah, we've already got an established presence in Phoenix. Let's do another building because we know that the demand is there.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. And so when you go into a building, how long are you typically there? Is this could be like a 6-month arrangement, a 2-year? Do you guys have sort of like a min max?
Yeah, I think most times we're looking for permanent. So a lot of times we'll have a building that would be completely permanent. So like take Hold on Half as well. It's half multifamily, half hotel. So there's a portion, 66 rooms are dedicated to hotel. And then there's another portion that's dedicated to multifamily. So our leasing side will handle completely unfurnished, folks would move into those buildings. So that's our building. And that's how that's operated. Then in a pop-up hotel scenario, we may go in with a term that's a year to 2 years. It really depends on the owner and what they're trying to accomplish. And that's really how we run it. I think ideally the sweet spot is 2 years for something like that.
Okay, so Janelle, when you took on the senior sales manager for the specifically for the government travel role in early 2025, what were you really tasked with? What did they want you to come in and do? Was this a whole new category, or were you stepping in for somebody that had been there before?
No, it was a brand new role. So it was a role that was really created to bring in government business to Placemakr as a whole. So we had some success with government business in Washington, D.C., but we weren't getting as much across the country. So the idea was that we wanted to really kind of ramp this up, see if we can have a government arm that would just focus on getting us government business and creating relationships with the government as a whole, getting us on GSA as a partner, using SAM.gov, which is a system for award management. And my boss at the time had come up with the idea, and she asked me if this was something I was interested in doing. So it was really created, and she had me in mind for that.
Okay. And so getting on GSA and SAM and things like that, is that something that you had experience with before?
I had done it before, yeah, for previous hotels. I had done like the full SAM application. I've never really fully been responsible for all of it for hotels, but it was something that I had experience with, yes.
Okay. And so what was your plan coming in? How did you want to hit the ground running?
I really just wanted to get a relationship with everyone in the government as much as possible. A lot of my clients, naturally being in Washington, D.C., were some sort of government contractor or government client. So it was really easy for me to transition them into, hey, we're going to, I want you to come over here, make sure you're staying with us. It was really just a DC thing and then getting those connections across the country. My goal was hitting as many agencies as possible and then getting the word out that we knew what compliance meant for government travelers. So, and that Placemaker could do it. So that was really what I wanted to do, was just get the word out that we were government compliant. We know how they operate. We know what their billing needs to be like. And really, government's a little bit different than dealing with another client, right? Like they're all about, tell me that you do per diem, tell me that my billing is going to be seamless. And I don't, like, that's it. That's all they really care about.
Okay.
So it was really about that.
Is this primarily federal government? Or are you trying to tap into state and local
Everything, all of it.
Everything.
So yeah, a little bit of everything. Yeah.
So we're recording this November 19th, 2025. So we've just come out of the longest government shutdown in U.S. history. What was that like for you in your role?
I've been through this before. So I was around when the last shutdown happened for 35 days. I feel like this is I'm accustomed to the ebbs and the flows with government travel. So while there may not be something that is a shutdown, there are a lot of things that can affect government travel. So with the shutdown itself, initially what happens is the first wave is you get a ton of cancellations. And that's because everyone's panicking and no one really knows where the funding is going to come from, what's going to happen, what their role is, and if they are going to be going home or can even answer an email. So you get sort of hit with that first wave of cancellations. And then the next step is the other wave of people that are like, well, my credit card's not going to work because there's no funding. So you then have to deal with that. And then there's the other side of it, that's the ones that are essential, that are working, that are still traveling, not necessarily traveling, but maybe in-house. And they can't leave because they're essential. And they're sort of in a little bit of a place of, I don't know what to do. So there's different waves to it. Will I say we were completely affected? We were affected like I think any other hotel company would have been. Where I think it's a little different for us with the fact that we are, um, we offer a lot of extended stay business. We didn't necessarily feel it as much as other people may have because those folks that are extended stay kind of have to stay put. So
Once they're committed for that particular stay, it's not like they're going to yank them out in the middle of it.
yeah, they won't yank them out unless something goes a lot longer. So had this gone on probably touched maybe 2 months, then there may have been a plan to pull them if they didn't think there was any kind of resolution to it coming soon.
So most of the government travel that you're doing, is it a longer stay or is it just all over the place? Some are a night, like at a hotel, and some of them are a month or two.
Yeah, it's a mix, but I do get a good amount of extended stay.
Okay. And so is that the biggest attraction, whether it's for government clients or others, is that this is a more comfortable place to stay for a longer period of time than it would be at a hotel?
Yeah, absolutely. I had a client tell me that, for them, it's about the space. It's the fact that they can wash their clothes in their rooms. And it's the fact that they don't have to depend on a per diem or stipend to buy their meals when they can just go to the grocery store and cook what they want and eat out when they feel like it. So it's really about feeling like it's a place that's home away from home. So, I have clients that move in and they bring their own lamp, they bring their own rugs because they just want to feel like they're in an environment because their job just requires them to be gone or on the road or in the field for an extended period of time. So we try to make it as much of home as possible and as comfortable for them as possible.
So since this is an apartment, it's bigger than a hotel room. It has more amenities, like the washer and dryer, full-size fridge, stove, microwave, dishwasher, all that. I have to assume that the rates are expectedly going to be a little bit higher than a hotel stay.
They're not actually. So it's pretty
Really?
comparable. Yeah, it's pretty comparable. So depending on what city you're in. So for instance, you're in Austin, per diem is 141 there. We book government per diem. So per diem is 141 there, whereas in Washington, D.C., it's 276, depending on the time of the year, or 196 in lower season. And then, it can get as low as 113 in Columbia, Maryland, and 137 in San Antonio. New York is 342. So it really just depends on where you're staying. Government per diem, we fall within government per diem rates, and then our rates are lower for extended stays. So it does end up being either very comparable to a hotel or lower in most cases.
I'm trying to wrap my head around how that's possible, right? I mean, at a hotel, to me, it seems like it should be more efficient, right? They're smaller rooms. They're designed for quicker turnover. And how can the rates be the same or even a little bit lower if the facility is bigger with more amenities? What am I missing?
Yeah, honestly, I feel like that's more of a question for the hotel partners. I think for us, our main thing is we do operate as a hotel. So we do want to be competitive. And while we do offer all of those amenities, that's the beauty of it all, is that you can get all these amenities for the same cost that you would pay at a hotel. The only difference is now it's at your control. You're doing your own thing. You can cook, you can wash, you can do all of it. But yeah, prices are very, very comparable.
Yeah. Okay. So, and how do you guys get the word out? I mean, obviously you're doing sort of direct sales to the government space. Are there other folks like you within the organization that are focused on their own vertical? So it's a little less targeted maybe to like a vacation traveler.
Yeah.
Because like, this is my first time hearing of Placemakrs, our relationship, our conversation here today. I don't see commercials alongside of VRBO or Airbnb. Is that because you're more targeted towards that business traveler?
Yeah, so it's a lot of business travel. There are people, so I'm the only person that's actually segmented. So when I started, I sold everything. So I was essentially attached to a property and I sold everything for that property until we created the government vertical. Outside of that, there are salespeople that are attached to their hotels and they sell everything except government. So they are responsible for doing everything else. And we have a lot of really great established clients. And then our goal is to get the word out to everyone else. So there's a ramp up period. Obviously, when we go into our market, our team gets the word out that Placemakr is coming, we're here. So we have a full marketing team that handles all of that sort of pre-ramp of phase. We also do our due diligence when we know a market is coming into play, and we just get out, hit the ground running to say we're coming. Once we're here, we target those clients so they know who we are. And we do advertise, of course, via like hospitality channels. So through the GDS with our partners that we already have, established corporate housing providers that we work with, travel agencies that we work with. That's how we get the word out.
And as I understand, Placemaker has received a lot of funding, and you guys are continuing to expand into new markets like downtown Phoenix. From your side, from a sales perspective, Janelle, what have been the biggest challenges in rolling out these new properties?
I think just that it's really getting the word out. That is a challenge because it is bringing brand awareness when we're not a massive brand that has a ton of awareness in the market. So, it's really about going out and trying to meet those clients and doing it sort of the old school way, which is going door to door and meeting those people and knocking on the doors, doing email sequences, contacting people as much as we can. But I will say the challenge is the ramp up phase. It's really trying to get the name out in front of everyone when we don't have the big box brand, firepower behind us.
And so and this is maybe outside of sort of your scope, but, since you're doing pop-ups and maybe the agreement is, a couple of years with the property, seems like you're probably constantly looking for new property opportunities in each of the markets that you're operating.
Yeah, absolutely. We have a team of people. They're called real estate, our REPP team. So our real estate property partners, they actually go out and they scout locations. They sort of do their due diligence, their homework, trying to figure out an area. Sometimes they get approached by people to look at a building. So there is a team that would handle and make all of those decisions.
Okay. From your time in sales and in hospitality, and we've talked a little bit about the transition that you made from being more like deal focused, transaction focused, let's get it done, let's move on to the next thing, to much more relationship focused. What are some of the other key lessons that you've learned along the way that would be helpful to share with listeners who are either in the hospitality space or just a general sales position?
Yeah, I think learn as much as you can. Be a sponge. In my career early on, and I mean, still, I'm always attaching myself to the people that I know are teaching constantly. And you can learn from anyone, but be it good, bad, or indifferent. You learn what you don't want, and you learn what you want, and you learn what's good, and you can see the things that are bad that you need to stay away from. I think it's really all about being a sponge, asking questions, getting out and knowing your clients, uh, build that relationship with your client because it's a little bit more than just what can you do for me and what can I do for you, but just how are you doing? You know what I mean? People want to people want to see value and feel value. So I think if I could tell anyone anything is really pay attention, show people that they are important because people are important. We are all important in one way or the other. And those are the relationships that you will continue to build and will grow and will make you successful as a salesperson because you are
Can
showing value with folks.
can you talk more practical steps, what that looks like, showing value to people and not being all about the sales transaction?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have clients that have turned into basically what I would consider friends, right? It's not going to be every single thing, but good enough relationships where I know things about them. Like I have a client that wrote a book. I bought his book. I went out, I congratulated him when his book launched. You know what I mean? So it's one of those things where it's the step of being authentic to who you are and letting people see that you are authentic. So it's caring, asking how their day's going, asking about family, like what's important to them through a process of how they like to be communicated with. I think that's very important. And then once you know those things about your clients, it's going to be easy to talk to them. Because I have the clients that would email me and just say, hey, I need X amount of rooms. Yes or no? Do you have it? I know those clients are just they're busy. They are, they just want it done quickly. They're about the details. So my process with them is book it. I know what rates they're going to pay, charge them that, get them their receipt at the end. And then when holiday time comes, it's like, hey, you want to go out for a drink? Can I come to your office, bring you some cookies? Those are those type of clients. Then there's the other client that's never going to email me. They're going to pick up the phone. They want to talk. They want to take 20 minutes of my time. Okay, cool. I know that I have to block out a certain time to talk to that person because I can get really busy and I don't want them to feel like I don't have time for them. So I'll make sure I prioritize my day that, hey, I've got to give this person 20 minutes because they like to talk and catch up. And I need to ask them questions and keep them engaged. And it's not that I'm thinking like, oh, I'm doing this because I want to maintain you as a client. It's just, I know this is how you like to be communicated with. And that's okay. And I'm fine with that.
Can you share a time where you faced a significant challenge in a sales process or a tough negotiation and how, oh yeah, she's nodding her head.
Yep, I have one. I have a big one. So sort of recent, earlier in the year, I was working on a deal, massive, massive, massive deal. Essentially I bid it out at one of my properties and, everything was going well. The client was like, this sounds good. We went back and forth a couple times on rate and they were like, can we negotiate? I think I can, if you do this, it's yours. And, I pulled everyone in and everyone was involved. I mean, I'm talking about it got to like the highest level to where I was getting calls like, Janelle, this is awesome. I can't believe you have this on. I mean, I'm talking like millions of dollars with this deal. And then everything was great. Everything was set to close. And I logged off for work and on the way to my son's swim practice. And I get a message that says, hey, Janelle, so sorry. Everything's been great, but the client decided they're not going to go forward. I cried. I cried. So just to tell you, after 23 years, I can still have emotion behind a deal. And I think I was more bothered that so many people were involved and I felt like I was letting down just multitudes of people, right? And I had my 25-minute breakdown and I was just like, okay, you got to pull yourself out of this. I reached out to the client and I said, thank you so much for the information, but can you tell me what we could have done differently to win this bid? And then is there an opportunity to do something in the future with you guys? And she said, well, if you could have built a hotel closer to where they need to be, it would have been yours. And I just said, well, where do they need to be? And she told me, and I said, all right, give me 24 hours. And I called one of our REPP team and I just said, what's the likelihood of getting a hotel within 5 miles of this location? And they were like, okay, we'll get back with you. Within 24 hours, they were calling me with 3 possible locations. And they said, pitch it to the client. So I called the client and I said, hey, I have 3 possible locations, but I need to call you on Teams because I need to show you geographically where they're located. And she said, okay. So I called her and she's like, no, this one's too close. I mean, too far. And then the other one, she's like, yeah, it's about the same. Like it's 24 minutes. I was like, all right, well, I'll get back with you. We went back to the drawing board. There was one more, only one. And I said to her, I did the call. And when, for whatever reason, this just came out of my mouth. I was like, you told me to build a hotel. Here's the builder. And I introduced her to, our REPP guy. And he shows her and she goes, yeah, I mean, it's worth a shot. I'll kick it back to the client. Why not? Let's try. And it was a bunch of back and forth for maybe about a month and a half. And then they were like, yeah, we want it. Like, let's do it. So we quoted everything out. And I mean, it took months to close and I was on edge every day and everyone was calling me and I was scared that it was going to fall apart. And then one day I'm in Huntsville sitting in a restaurant with my boss and the client calls me and she goes, hey, I'll have great news for you on Wednesday. And I'm like, all right, cool. And I was like, wait, it's Wednesday. Like, what are you talking about? And she goes, they're moving forward. Send me the contract. And I was like, holy moly. And we essentially created a pop-up hotel just for this one client.
Wow.
And it was, honestly, I'm still blown away by it because I didn't think that we could ever. The fact that I'm with a company that could even pull something like this off is crazy to me. That, but it was huge. It was huge. It was months of, I didn't sleep. I think I lost weight. Um, I was like sick every morning and I got up, or, just, it was, it was a lot. It was a lot going through the process, but we got it done. The client's in, the client's happy, and we are running a pop-up hotel only for them.
There was this poster my dad used to keep on our refrigerator when we were kids growing up. I wonder if you've seen it. It's a picture of some kind of bird like a stork, and it's trying to swallow a frog.
Yeah.
And the frog has reached down and is closing the throat of the bird so that the bird can't actually swallow it. And the title is Never Give Up. Have you seen?
Yeah, I've seen it. Yeah.
And so that's exactly what I had in my brain as you were telling this story, because it was like, you thought this was a sure thing. And, for anybody who's been, through the sales process, which is just about everybody in business, right? There are these ups and downs, highs and lows. You think you're going to land the job. You don't land the job. There's a lot of emotion around that. But what I love is you were the frog holding on to the stork's neck there, not allowing this to just fall apart. And so you're like, what can I do? So you called them up and you got into action, and you and your team miraculously were able to pull something together.
Yeah,
that's fabulous.
Yeah.
And now what's interesting is, so you were working with a go-between on this, because they were like, hey, the client, and let me go back to the client. Okay. Is that typical in a lot of your deals, or are you?
Yeah, we have a couple clients that represent some bigger organizations that, for whatever reasons, security reasons, different things, that they can't deal directly. So they'll go through a sort of a liaison, so to speak. So, but yeah, they technically work for the client, but it was just a go-between, as you said.
Yeah. Now, looking back on that whole experience, anything you would have done differently?
I think from the start, I would have asked better questions, because I don't know that I asked the right questions to know that there was a possibility that it could have fallen apart. I was just so gung ho and going with the fact that they were like, oh, well, if you do this, you can win it, versus sort of asking like, what are the risks, right? And how can we mitigate those risks? And I didn't ask those questions ahead of time. Like who's making the decision, and really what's a big risk factor for them. And I think I was so gung ho on the fact that I thought it would be easy, because we had everything. We were offering everything. There was really no reason as to why we couldn't have gotten it. And then it came back that we weren't close enough. And I never thought to think, to say, are we like, is this going to be an issue because we're located here versus, or where do they need to be every day? I didn't ask that question. And I probably should have thought a little bit better about the questions I needed to ask.
What do you think are the top 3 questions to ask in a sales process?
So when are you trying to make the decision? Who are the decision makers? And really, is there anyone that besides you that we need to pull into this from the start, so we can understand from soup to nuts what is really needed to put our best foot forward from the start?
Is there something surprising you've come to understand about human psychology from the work that you do?
I think I've said it before. Everyone wants value, and everyone wants to feel valued. So I don't know if that's necessarily surprising. I mean, maybe it surprised me as I got older, because I never really thought about it being a younger salesperson. It was always more about what I can do and what we can offer versus how this person is tied to this. How does this affect them on a day-to-day basis? So I think that's the surprising part of it, is that ultimately, for people, they want to feel good in what they do, and they have people they have to impress as well. I'm not the only person that has people to answer to. The person I'm talking to has to answer to somebody else. So I've got to make sure they look good in the process, because they're the ones that, they may be signing off, but somebody has to tell them like, yeah, it's good to go, sign off. So I think it's that. It's just that everybody wants to feel valued.
You have an interesting story, Janelle, on how you came to be in this country. Can you walk us through that?
Yeah. At 3 years old, my mother decided that she wanted to move to the US
From
and from Trinidad and Tobago. Um, and she was moving to the US for what she considered a better opportunity than what she had back in the Caribbean. And I was left behind with my grandparents and an aunt that lived at home. That was 16 when I was born. And my mom moved to the US, and remained in Trinidad and was raised by my grandmother after my grandfather died when I was 8. Um, and I remained with them until I was 16 years old. My mom did the typical sort of Caribbean American dream situation where she sent for me, as they say. Um, and I moved to the US at 60.
Wow. And so you said typical. So this is a pattern that you've seen with a lot of folks that originate from the Caribbean.
Yeah, if you talk to really anybody from a Caribbean island that's roughly in their 40s, they can tell you that they started with somebody came here first, got established, and then sent for them.
And what was that like? Basically, most of your growing up years being without your mother.
Yeah, I mean, it was rough. It poses for, tough relationships when you do reunite with your mom. I was extremely close to my grandmother, like very, very close. My grandmother became my mother up until she passed away on September 21st. Oh, September
Wow.
18th. September 18th. Jeez. Um, just recently. And yeah, I developed a bond with her that was just completely just unbreakable. But it was good because young, you're a kid, your attitude is out of this world. And, you know, I thought I knew everything. I thought I could be anything, and not that that's a bad thought process that you could be anything, but just didn't realize that there's a process to things, right? There are levels to things, and you've got to sort of start somewhere. Um, I dealt with really just it was difficult for me being away from my grandmother when I moved here. So that was hard. I didn't want to move. I didn't want to come to the US. It was sort of a fight. And I sold the story that I was kidnapped from my grandmother by my mother. Sold it for a long, long time.
Sold it
Um,
to who?
anyone that would listen. Anyone I would tell them,
Just because you were angry about leaving your
yeah, I
grandmother.
didn't want to leave. I didn't want to leave my grandmother. I didn't want to move here. And I felt like I was abandoning her. And then I kind of lashed out a little bit like, why would you let her take me? There was a lot of that. To my grandmother just being very hopeful that I would do well. And she never really told me until the end when I found out that she wanted me to go. And when I heard that story, which I found out in August this year before she passed away, from another aunt, actually on my dad's side, that said, I remember when your grandmother wanted this so bad. She kept saying, I hope Janelle's visa goes through so she can move to the US. And I was able to tell my grandmother 2 days before she passed away that I understood why she did it. I was thankful that she did it because what she saw was that I would have a life that she couldn't give me and that I would be able to do things that just made sense for me. I didn't, not that she didn't think I had a future there. She just knew that I would get an experience I couldn't get there. So, it was important to her. And I think the fact that I had my grandmother for 98 years,
Wow.
yep, makes me very happy because she was able to see her sacrifice come to play and everything that she wanted. Most people will never get that opportunity to see their kids become what in their eyes, you know what I mean? Like something great. Because to her, it was just, she was just happy that I was thriving. And, I bought a house, I had cars, like all these things that you can look at materialistically and see. And she didn't care about any of that stuff, but she didn't have to pay a bill either because there wasn't a bill I was letting her pay at all from the time that I got a check. I was like, I'm paying your bills, I'm doing all of these things. So, and when she passed away, I opened up her closet and it was just maybe 11 dresses, I mean, obviously when you get older, you need less things, and it made me kind of sad. I was like, why does she only have 11 dresses? But I was like, I think I bought 10 of the 11 dresses, and it made me feel good because she was able to see that I could take care of her. And I think not that that's what she wanted, but it made me feel good to be able to do that and have her see me be, in her eyes, successful. So,
How long after you came to the States did it take for you to become maybe less angry about the situation, more accepting, grateful to be here?
probably my 20s. It
Okay.
took me a while. It took me a while. I came at 16. I went back at 18 after I graduated high school. And at that point, I was already resigned to living in the US. I was like, no, I'm going back, and um, so I had accepted living in the US at 18. But as far as not being angry, I would say roughly about 22, 23, I kind of started coming out of it a little bit. And I think when I finally felt at home, honestly, it was probably 30. Because I think I had my children. My children were, I just had my own little family. So I'd always kind of felt a little disjointed in that I have all these people that have raised me in one way or the other, a mother, a father, a grandmother, an aunt, aunts, you know, um, my great aunt, who was very instrumental in raising me as well, and her son, my uncle. It's so I've had all these people with all this love in multiple places, and I think for a long time I looked at it like very odd. It's an odd situation because most people don't have that. And I think by 30, I started changing it to say I had a lot of love. I got lucky because I have more than just two people that love me. I've got 6 or 7, that love me. So when my husband met my family, the first thing he said to me is, "You're so spoiled." He was like, you're like everyone's favorite. You're so spoiled." He's like, "No wonder I got to deal with these attitudes." He's like, "Because everyone spoils you." And then that's when it really clicked for me. I was like, yeah, I had it great because I got love from multiple places.
So it was really hearing your husband's perspective on things that
Yeah,
was like a light switch kind of
for
going on for
sure.
you.
For sure.
Oh,
Yeah.
interesting. And what was that like? Kind of going back to, coming here at 16, reconnecting with your mother, who you probably had some memories of. And I'm sure you communicated with her, while
Yeah.
she was gone, but you didn't know her. You didn't have a relationship with her like you did living
Yeah.
with her.
It made it hard. It made it very difficult. We had a rough patch for a long time. Um, it was hard because, I spent a lot of time thinking by the time when I was living in Trinidad, one of my biggest things was that I miss my mom. I miss my mom. I miss my mom. I cried for her all the time. It was just always, you're missing what you don't have because other people have it. Not realizing that right in front of me, I had a grandmother that loved me, a great aunt that loved me, aunts that loves me. I was just wanting my mother. And then I got with my mom and I didn't want her. I wanted all the people I left behind. You always want what you don't have, right? And I think I just got to the point where it was rough for us. So I lashed out at her a lot and didn't really see her sacrifice until I got older. And I was like, she left to make a better life for herself and for me. And what she thought she was doing is the right thing. And it was hard. And I did not make it easy being 16 and a woman at that, or thought I was a woman. Oh God, we're the worst. So, you're coming with like all the attitude, all the everything. And I know I didn't make it easy for her. Which kind of stunted our relationship for a really long time. We're in a better place, but I would say our relationship is a little bit more like sisters versus a mother and daughter because her mom was really my mom to me.
Okay.
So I have more of a maternal relationship with my grandmother than I do my mom, but she's still my mom.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And how many kids do you have?
I have 3. I have 2 daughters and a son.
Okay. And are any of them that 16 age mark
My
yet?
son is 16. My daughters are 23 and I'm sorry, 24 and 22.
Okay. So you've been through that teenage process with them
The
already.
teenage process. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was
Right.
very different. I didn't go through, thank God, because my grandmother used to tell me all the time, when you have kids, they're going to be 10 times worse than you were. And thankfully, I did not get that punishment. But yeah.
Good. All right. Let's shift gears again.
Mhm.
Any particular books or podcasts that have been helpful for you? Any resources that you want to recommend for our audience?
Yeah. When I first started in sales, my mentor, Juliet Whitaker, gave me a book called The Measure of a Man by Dr. Martin Luther King. And she was like, just read it. Just read it. And I think it was such a good book because it just talked about being the best at no matter what you do, just be the best at it. Right. Like, even if there's a story in it about being a garbage man, if you're a garbage man, be the best garbage man that you can be. So I read that and really took it to heart that you had to be the best, give your best in every situation. And then shameless plug, my dad wrote a book called Everyday Leadership. His name is Kenneth Corby. And I love the book because it does talk about like leadership in everything that you touch, right? You're a leader, whether you think you are or not. So, I really enjoy that book because it's right down to the person that's behind the counter that's taking your order for your burger and fries, like how they're leading you and how you're leading someone that you don't even realize you're doing it, you know? Um, so those two, I think, really kind of keep me grounded. And I refer to them a lot when I just need to pep myself up a little bit.
You have any daily habits or routines that pep you up or get you started, keep you on track?
Yeah, I pray every day, like every day. My feet don't hit the ground unless I turn my Bible app on and I listen and then I pray and I get my day started.
Nice. What's something fun you like to do outside of work?
I like to travel. I love to travel. I travel a lot for work, but I need a beach. I love a beach. I love going home and visiting my family. That's probably the most fun thing for me. And then also my second daughter particularly, she loves to go out to eat. She is just from the time could walk, it was like seafood. I want seafood. She's my little expensive kid, but I like to go out. I like to go on little dates with her and go out to eat because she's fancy. So I always feel like she exposes me to all of the everything new and upcoming when it comes to food.
Janelle, we've already talked about a couple of big challenges that you've been through and overcome. Is there another one that maybe you want to give voice to, explain how you got through something, what you learned going through that hard stuff?
Yeah, on a personal level, I was diagnosed with spindle cell sarcoma in July 2017. It's a very rare form of soft tissue cancer. I got diagnosed with that. It was the most random thing. I had an itch on my thigh and itched it and felt a big lump and went to the doctor and they tested it and it was spindle cell sarcoma. Difficult news to hear. Didn't want to hear it. Didn't know how I was going to get through it. And honestly, my grandmother, like she always did, told me you got to learn how to pray. And the best way to pray is God, if it's your will, it will be. And that's it. And just leave it alone. And that's what I did. And that's how I approached it. And, honestly, I couldn't have had a better experience with it, which was really just surgically removed and no real treatment. Just, I was down for probably about 3 months, not able to walk or do anything like that. But um, I had a really good job at the time and they were super supportive. They never once asked me to go on FMLA or any of that kind of stuff. They just allowed me to work from home and just whenever I needed to, whatever I needed to do, take care of it. And it was good. It was easy. I got through it. I was diagnosed cancer free. Uh, Maybe 2 years ago, they finally declared me as no more. You don't need to come back or do anything. So yeah, it was a challenge, but I got through it.
So summer of 2017 is when you discovered. Yep.
July 5th, 2017 is when I was diagnosed.
Diagnosed.
I found it in February 2017. I did nothing about it until
Okay.
maybe May.
And how long before they operated?
Um, when I went to a doctor in May, they had me go do a biopsy. So that was the first surgery. I had that in June, and then the resection is what they call it. That happened in August, like August 9th, 2017 was when I had that surgery.
And sounds like it must have been a pretty invasive surgery if you're not able to walk for 3 months.
Yeah, it's the tumor was the size of a golf ball, and as hard as a golf ball as well. And my doctor, the way he describes it is, I went as deep as possible and as wide as possible, and I probably took out things that I didn't need to take out, but I wanted to just get as much as I could. Anything that looked suspicious, even if it didn't, I just removed it. So he essentially cut the patella nerve. So like my kneecap was, not supported by anything. And, all of that, you kind of essentially, if there's no nerves there, your brain can't tell your leg what to do. So a lot of it had to be manually done for me to be able to learn how to walk again.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it took me a couple years before I can actually do full, like, walk properly. So, or run or dance, like all of those things. But I started back walking after 3 months, but it wasn't like the way I was walking before, I should say.
Using a cane or a walker or some kind of an assist?
I had an assist. My doctor was not happy with me having an assist because he just felt like I needed to not walk with anything. And he's like, you can do this. It's, discipline your mind. But it just was, I walked with a limp because habit was, I think, my mind, because there was no connection there. I couldn't tell that I wasn't in pain. So to me, I walked with a limp because I felt like I needed to not put pressure on my leg fully.
Who did you lean on during this time?
My family, really, my kids, my husband, my grandmother. I called her all the time, but yeah, it was mostly, I kept it very close to the vest. Like people knew, but I kept it very, very close to the vest because it was just such a difficult time for me. I didn't want I was sensitive to multiple opinions and advice because I think a lot of people started, What the Health? You remember What the Health? That documentary?
No,
There was a documentary called What the Health about meat, eating meat. So people started sending me that. And it was like all the advice is, oh, don't eat this or don't eat. And I was like, oh, I got to cut that. Like, so I just basically sort of shut down from anyone that wasn't in my immediate bubble. Because there's just a lot more advice than what I felt like was needed at the time. I think people, I said it to my dad, and I remember my dad being very, very serious about people. When people love you, they grasp at straws to save you. So don't look at it as people want to give their opinion and everyone has something to say. It was more of they're scared, they love you, they're looking for ways to save you. And I had to change my mindset a little bit on that. So
when you look back on that time, would you have approached it any differently? Or you think, hey, I did exactly what I should have done during that time?
I think maybe not shut people out as much is probably the only thing. I don't think anything I would have changed differently with like my treatment or my conversations with my kids or anything like that. But just maybe understand that people weren't coming from a place of you shouldn't do this or you should do this. It was just more of like the care. It was just more care. Seeing it as more caring than, invasive.
And there were no additional treatments that were needed after that?
No, surprisingly, I did not.
They just checked on you on a regular basis, and then 2 years ago, they said, hey, it's been long enough. We haven't seen anything. You're good.
I did. Every 3 months, I would do an MRI and a CT scan because that type of cancer, if it were to metastasize, it would go to your lungs. So I had to do a CT of my lungs and a MRI of my legs. So that would happen every 3 months. And the reason they did it more than they would do, like, say, for breast cancer or something else, like a carcinoma. Carcinomas are easier to find versus sarcomas. They're not easy to find. So they have to check a lot more often than they would for somebody else. Because most people you'll talk to, they'll tell you, oh, every 6 months is when I have to go. Like mine was every 3 months.
Okay. Janelle, I've just got one more question for you today. But before I ask it, I want to do 3 quick things. First of all, anybody who wants to get in touch with Janelle or the company. Placemakr, you can find at placemakr.com, but it's Placemakr. So there's no E at the end of maker, placemakr.com. And if you want to reach out to Janelle directly, it's jcash, C-A-S-H, jcash at placemakr.com. We'll have a link to that in the show notes. Also, as a reminder, if you want to get more employees access to benefits that won't hurt them financially and carries a financial upside for the company, reach out to us at addbackbenefits.com. Finally, if you'll take just a moment to leave us a comment or review on your favorite podcast app, you will hold a special place in my heart forever. Thank you. So last question for you, Janelle. A year from now, you and I reconnect and you are celebrating something big. What's that big thing you hope to be celebrating 1 year from today?
Creating the next me, like giving somebody my role, essentially. I think if I can pay it forward, that will make me happy. Because other people have done that for me, where they've paid it forward because somebody did it for them. So I want to be able to train the next person to be the senior sales government travel manager. And then hopefully I'm sitting in more of like a director role with a team. I did just acquire a team recently, but I think growing the team, growing the market to where it's not just one person doing all government, but we have a government team and then somebody sitting in my role that I can say is doing better than I did.
Have you had the opportunity to mentor other people in the past?
I have, yep.
Yeah.
I have, yes. I think
So
that's
this
where
is
I'm
something you
most
want to
fulfilled.
continue. Yeah.
That's where I'm most fulfilled. Yeah.
And so if folks feel compelled to reach out to you for advice in sales, that's something that you would be receptive to?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Somebody did it for me, so I'm happy to do it for somebody else.
That's terrific.
Yeah.
Well, Janelle Cash from Placemakr Hotels, I want to be the first to thank you for sharing both your time and your story with us today. I really appreciate that.
Thank you so much, Anthony. I enjoyed being here.
Folks, that's a wrap on another episode of the Inspired Stories podcast. Thanks for learning with us today.